friends. Welcome to the video lectures of IIPF. Today we are going to talk on the topic BFM Module A, International Banking. This particular paper, BFM has BFM Module A. In that paper and in the book of IIPF, the following topics are covered, as you can see on the screen. The topics covered are exchange rates and Forex business, basics of Forex derivatives, correspondent banking and NRI accounts, that is non-resident Indians accounts, documentary letters of credit, facilities for exporters and importers, the risks in foreign trade and the role of ECGC in helping the banks as well as the traders to mitigate the risks. Then there are some miscellaneous topics in the 7th chapter, that is the role of Exim Bank, Reserve Bank of India, exchange control in India, then something about FEMA, FEDI, and other topics are there. So this is the syllabus covered under this BFM Module A paper. Now, we already have video lectures on these topics, which have been launched by IIPF. The earlier video lectures are very much in detail. There are about 12 video clips on Module A, International Banking subject. And those video clips are extensively covering these topics, right from the basics, everything, the definition, the meaning of terms, everything has been explained quite in detail. So in this series of video lectures, what we will be doing is we will just be taking care of the updates on these subjects. If at all there is some update regarding any topic, I will be discussing that with you. So let's get ahead with the lecture and discuss the updates on international banking. Just to tell you a little bit about the fresh statistics in the Forex market. As we all know, Forex market is global. It's worldwide decentralized financial market where the foreign currencies are traded. Forex market means what is sold and bought there, the currencies of various countries. Now, this particular market is very unique. It has no physical presence. That is why it is unique, because the participants in this market, they can trade from their own office, from their own desk. They need not go anywhere. But yet, the geographical dispersion of the market is throughout the world. You can buy and sell from all over the world, sitting at your own desk in this market. The trading volumes are huge in this market, and it is traded 24/7 since it is dispersed all over the world. And there is during the 24 hours, somewhere it is daytime, somewhere it is nighttime. So due to that, when in the Far East, when Japan opens up, that time New York is closing down. And when the time for Japan to close comes, the other countries are closing, New York in the West opens up. So that's where the 24-hour market is working somewhere in the world. And it also works 7 days a week, since certain countries are working even on the normal weekends. Average size of this market is very, very huge. It is the largest of any kind. The daily turnover in this market, as per the latest statistics, that is the BIS statistics available to us, is US dollars 5,067 billion. That much is the daily turnover. Now let me tell you something about the turnover of various countries, daily turnover of various countries. This statistics is taken from the BIS, the Bank for International Statistics, and this is as on 2016. This BIS gives the statistics triennially, and this is the latest statistics available. Now, according to this, the average daily turnover in billions of US dollars in these countries, this is taken, the top five, six countries where the turnover is the largest, their statistics is taken over here. In UK, it is 2,406 billion USD. United States of America, 1,272. In Singapore, it is 517. Hong Kong, 437. Japan, 399. And Switzerland, 156 billion US dollar. Now, statistics of India, just for academic information, since we belong to India, it is $34 billion US dollars per day. This is about the statistics in the Forex market. Now let's go ahead and see some updates about certain in these seven topics or seven chapters which I mentioned in the beginning. Certain topics have a lot of updates where the things have changed. So those we will be discussing in detail. And hence we will be discussing these non-resident accounts where some changes are there or something new has been introduced. These are the accounts which NRIs can hold in India, can open in India, and according to the latest guidelines, that is NRO, NRE, FCNR, and SNRR. We will see them in a little bit of details about these accounts. NRO account, this is the non-resident ordinary account. And these accounts are rupee accounts and can be opened and maintained by any non-resident who has gone outside India, and also by the foreign tourists who are on a short visit to India. Now, the account opened by the foreign tourists is a special NRO account. We'll discuss a little bit about it later. But first, let us see the normal NRO account, which can be opened by non-resident Indians. These accounts can be opened by sending for remittances from abroad or transfer of funds from NRO, NRE, or FCNR accounts. Typically, when a resident becomes a non-resident, when a resident Indian, he goes abroad and becomes a non-resident, his domestic rupee account, which is with a bank, it has to be redesignated as an NRO account. Or he can close that account and open a new NRO account. Now, NRO accounts can be opened jointly with residents only on former or survivor basis. This is the latest guideline. Earlier, the guideline used to be different. Whereas with NRIs and PIOs, the NRI who's opening the NRO account can hold jointly with other NRIs and PIOs. But if the person wants to open a account jointly with a resident Indian, it can only be done on a former or survivor basis. Now, which type of deposits can be held in NRO accounts? Any of this, that is SP, savings bank, current account, recurring deposit, or any other type of term deposit can be opened and maintained. This is the schemes are the same as domestic term deposits. Tenor of these deposits will also be the same as domestic deposits. And the rate of interest is actually as per RBI guidelines. The present guidelines are such that RBI has given permission to ADs to the banks to decide their own rate of interest, with only one condition, that the rate of interest paid to NRIs should not be more than the rate of interest paid for domestic deposits. So for both NRO and NRE account, banks can decide the rate of interest. The rate of the interest on NRO accounts is subject to deduction of income tax at source as prescribed. This is the difference between NRO accounts and NRE and FCNR accounts. Only in NRO accounts, the interest which is payable is subject to TDS, which the bank is supposed to deduct and send to income tax, remit to income tax department. Now, NRO, current or savings account, this is about the normal accounts, whereas we earlier discussed about the NRO account of a foreign tourist who's visiting India. Since the foreign tourist comes for a short period, he is allowed to open a special NRO account for a short period, either a current or a saving account he can open in India, and the tenure of this account will be maximum 6 months, because the tourist visa would be for 6 months. So he's allowed to open this account, operate it while on his visit in India. But is in this, he can only, it can be opened by through foreign remittance. All the money which he has brought in India can be converted into rupees and put in this account, but no local credits other than that can go into this account. He can debit the accounts for the expenses which he will be required to incur while on his visit to India. And when the tourist leaves India, he's supposed to close this account. Suppose in case the account is not closed and afterwards it needs to be closed after a period of 6 months, then RBI permission would be required to repatriate these funds abroad. Now, in a normal NRO account of an NRI, which are the permissible credits? The permissible credits would be inward remittances from outside India, legitimate dues in India, and transfer from other NRO accounts can go to the NRO account. Rupee gift or loan made by a resident to NRI or PI or relative within limits prescribed under the LRS scheme may be credited to letters. Now, suppose NRO, this means that suppose NRO account holder wants to remit some money to another NRI or PIO, then he can do. This account is partially repatriable. There is a limit of of an amount, how much amount can be repatriated. So even if he wants to transfer money to another NRI or PI or relative, it can be done only within that limit. Uh, which are the permissible debits in the account? The account can be debited for the purpose of local payments, transfers to other NRO accounts, or remittance of current income abroad. Now, what is this current income? Current income means the legitimate dues in India of the NRI, the interest on his investments, or rent on a property which is holding in India. All these are the interest on his accounts with the banks, or other permissible investments, dividends on the shares which he has bought. All these are called as current incomes. So these are apart from uh, the account can be debited for the purpose of local payments, transfers to other accounts, or remittance of current income abroad. The current income which has been credited in his account can be remitted abroad. Apart from these, out of the balances in NRO account, how much can be repatriated? As I mentioned earlier, there is a limit or a ceiling on this. So it can be only up to $1 million, subject to conditions specified in FEMA. Now, even if a NRI wants to transfer funds from NRO account to NRE account, it can be done only within the ceiling of $1 million per financial year. NRO accounts, suppose the NRI who has opened this NRO account, he comes back to India and becomes a resident again. What happens to this NRO account? It may be designated as a resident account on return of account holder to India, uh, for when he comes back and decides to stay in India. Same as when he goes abroad, his resident accounts gets redesignated as NRO. When he comes back, his NRO account gets redesignated as a normal account, and all the conditions applicable to normal account are applicable to his account then. So this was about non-resident ordinary accounts. Now we see the second type of NRR account, non-resident account, that is NRE, non-resident external rupee account. Let us see this. What is the difference? Here also, joint accounts can be opened by two or more NRIs or PIOs, or by an NRI or PIO with a resident relative. Now, when two NRIs or PIOs, the definition of NRIs and PIOs you already know from the previous videos, so I'm not repeating that. Now, NRIs or PIOs, when two NRIs or NRI and PIO, they open accounts, the operational instructions are can be anything. For example, either a survivor or both jointly or anyone, whatever. But if the NRI or PIO opens an account with a resident relative, he cannot open an account with any resident Indian. He can open it only with a resident relative, and the definition of this relative is given in the Companies Act 2013, where who can be defined as a resident relative. Some 26 relationships are given over there. So we have to go by that. So the NRE account can be opened only with a resident relative, and that too only with the operational instruction, former or survivor. So that has to be kept in mind by authorized dealer banks when they open a non-resident external account, NRE account. Now, during the lifetime of the NRI or PIO account holder, the resident relative who is a joint account holder here, he cannot operate the account at all. Only on one condition he can operate the account, that is if he is given a power of attorney by the main account holder, that who is an NRI or PIO. So he can operate the account only if he is a power of attorney holder, not in other case. The account, this account also can be either in the form of saving bank, recurring deposit, current account, recurring deposit, or term deposits. The only difference here is that NRE term deposits can be opened for a minimum period of 1 year. The maximum period and other conditions are mostly similar to domestic deposits, and banks can decide individually their uh, other conditions about these deposit accounts. The rate of interest is as per RBI guidelines. As I already mentioned earlier, RBI has deregulated this rate of interest on NRE accounts, and they have given permission to banks to decide the rate of interest, only subject to the condition that the rate of interest should not exceed the rate of interest paid on domestic deposits. Now, in NRO, we saw that the deposit balances in the account were not fully repatriable. There was a ceiling on the repatriation amount. Here, in NRE account, full repatriation of deposit amount, including interest, is permitted. All the balances in NRE accounts are fully repatriable. Permitted credits in NRE accounts are inward remittances, which may come in the account from abroad. The NRI may send remittances in his account. And then also the current income, that is interest on investment. Then even transfer from other NRE or FCNR accounts, the maturity proceeds of his investments. Um, all this can go in the NRD account that can be credited freely. The current income like rent, dividend, pension, I have already defined current income for you. The legitimate income which he gets, the NRI gets in India from his earlier investments, it will be construed as permissible credit to NRI account. Of course, the AD bank where the account is, I mean, the who is maintaining this account, the bank should be satisfied that the credit represents current income, and the NRI should be able to justify it. Then where whichever and the income tax whichever is payable on these incomes, that should have been paid. That is what should be it should be to the satisfaction of the AD, the authorized dealer bank. NRI should be given able to give the proof for the declaration regarding this, that the whatever taxes, income taxes payable on this income has been paid. The permitted debits in NRE accounts, the debits allowed are local disbursements, whatever local expenses the NRI wants to pay, transfer to other NRE, FCNRB, or other permissible investments in India. For this, the debits can be made. Income by way of interest on balances held in NRE account is exempted from all taxes. NRO, the bank is supposed to debit TDS and send the income to send the tax to the income tax department, whereas NRE accounts, whatever income is there by way of interest on balances, that is fully exempted from taxes. The banks may allow in these NRE accounts, the banks may allow temporary overdraft up to 50,000 in the savings account. However, such overdrafts must be cleared within 2 weeks from by remittance from abroad or by transfer from any other NRD or FCNR accounts. One more thing, which is what happens when the NRI comes, he returns to India and decides to become a resident Indian again. That time, what will happen to these NRE accounts? At that time, NRE accounts should be designated as resident accounts, or the funds held in these accounts may be transferred. At that option is given to the NRI himself. He may decide to uh, redesignate his account as a normal account, and we do that, then all the rules applicable to a normal residence accounts are applicable to this. Or he may open an RFC account, resident foreign currency account, and he may request you to transfer the funds over there. That means he may request the AD bank to do it. So that can also be done. So he has two choices, either to designate his account as a resident account or open an RSC account and transfer the funds over there. Now we go to the third NR non-resident account, that is the FCNR account. It is also known as FCNR B account because when this facility started, there was FCNR A account and B account. Two schemes were there. Now, of course, the A scheme has been it is continued. There is only the B schemes. Now, this is a foreign currency non-resident accounts. So, as the name suggests, we can make out that the deposits are accepted in foreign currency. They are accepted in any permissible currency. Earlier, there were only four currency in which it used to be accepted. Now, the AD bank can accept it any permissible currency. The difference between NRO, NRE, and this account is that one thing is that this is in a foreign currency, whereas NRO and NRE are in Indian rupees. Second difference is that FCNR accounts can be opened only in the form of term deposits, no saving or current account. This can be opened only in the form of term deposits with a minimum period of 1 year and maximum period of 5 years. So the tenor is also fixed over here. That is minimum 1 year, maximum 5 years. The deposits are in foreign currency and they are repaid also in the currency of issue along with interest and foreign currency itself. Now the accounts can be, who can open the FCNR account? Uh, Two or more NRIs or PIOs, they can open with any operational instruction. Whereas, just like other accounts, if the NRI wants to open a account jointly with a resident, then the resident has to be a relative. The relative definition as defined in Companies Act 2013, and this can be opened only on former or survivor basis, where the former is the NRI and survivor is the uh, resident relative. And during the lifetime of the main account holder, the resident relative can open this account only if he is given a power of attorney. Some more features of FCNR accounts, which are the permitted credits and debits. All credits and debits which are permitted for NRE deposit account, NRE rupee accounts, the same are permitted for FCNRB accounts also. That is, all the credits will be all the remittances from abroad which can come into his account, the current income from within India, which is permitted to be credited in his account. And the debits will be whatever permissible debits, which local disbursements and permissible investments. Now, there are some more facilities for FCNR accounts, which I would like to discuss. Uh, when a person opens NRO or NRE account, the NRI has to convert the remittance which he has made in foreign currency to rupees. So it is subject to exchange fluctuation when the currency is converted. Whereas in FCNR, since the account is open in foreign currency itself, there is no exchange risk. That is one special feature of the scheme. The other special features are that repatriation of principal amount along with interest is permitted. It is fully repatriable. There, of course, like NRE account, there are no taxes applicable to FCNR account also. Interest is paid on the basis of 360 days to a year. It's not considered as 365 days, it's 360 days as it is prevalent in international banking. And it is cumulated on half yearly intervals of 180 days. If it is a double benefit or a account where the interest on interest is paid, then it will be compounded on half yearly basis with at intervals of 180 days. Income as I earned by way of interest is exempt from income tax, which I already mentioned earlier. Um, in FCNR accounts, no power of attorney is allowed because there are no local withdrawals. As such, the amount matures altogether and it is withdrawn at once. So, no power of attorney is allowed. Forward cover can be booked to hedge the balance in FCNR account. Suppose at the time of maturity, the account holder wants to withdraw the money, convert it into rupees and transfer to NRE account, then he can book a forward cover for hedging against the exchange rate fluctuation. What happens when the FCNR account holder non-resident comes to India and decides to become a resident Indian again? What will happen to this account? One thing which can be done is the deposit may be allowed to continue till maturity at the contracted rate of interest. Even though he becomes a resident Indian, he can continue the FCNR account till it matures with the same terms and conditions, or that is at the discretion of the account holder. Um, when this account matures, the AD bank should convert this into uh, rupees and credit to resident rupee deposit accounts, or they can transfer this money without converting to RFC account if depositor is eligible to open the RFC account and he decides to open RFC account. So this option is left at the discretion of the account holder. Now, some general things regarding this all these three accounts. Nomination is permitted in NRO, NRE, FCNR. All three accounts can be nominated. The nominee can be either a resident Indian or he may be a NRI also. And in case of the in case the deposit holder expires, the money can be paid to the nominee. But if the nominee is an NRI and the money has to be repatriated from India, it has to be done with the approval of Reserve Bank of India. One other special feature is that AD banks are permitted to issue international credit cards to NRIs or PIOs. For this, no prior approval of Reserve Bank is necessary. And these transactions which they do for the payment of the use of credit cards, they may be settled by inward remittance or out of balances held in the cardholders' FCNR, NRE or NRO accounts to the debit of this. Income tax, if when NRI account holder makes remittances from the balances in India, the remittances net of applicable taxes from NRI accounts will be allowed to be made by AD banks on production of requisite information in the format prescribed by CBDT. They are subject to the remittances which are made are subject to uh, taxes as prescribed by the income tax department. The income in the case of NRE and FCNR accounts is not taxable, but the certain remittances which they make, they are subject to tax. So for that, the NRI has to abide by the income tax law. Now we go to the fourth type of non-resident account, which is a special non-resident rupee account. Now, this is not an account of an individual for normal savings. The other three accounts which we discussed up till now, that is NRO, NRE, and FCNR account. These were accounts with the with an intention of which were opened with an intention of savings by individuals, whereas the special non-resident rupee account, that is the SNRR account, are opened by NRIs, of course, that is any person resident outside India, but a person who is having a business interest in India. He is allowed to open a special non-resident rupee account, that is an NRR account with an AD. The purpose is to put through the bona fide transactions in rupees, which are uh, compliant with FEMA and all other regulations. That means which are not violating any other provisions of Act. So, for the sake of putting through the transactions of his business activity, the NRI can open a SNRR account, that is special non-resident rupee account. There are some salient features of this SNRR account which we should discuss. The SNR account will carry the nomenclature of the specific business for which it is open and not earn any interest. NRO, NRE, FCNR accounts, when it is a savings or term deposit account, they earn interest, whereas SNRR, first thing is it will carry the nomenclature of the specific business, because it's not a individual's account for savings, for personal savings. It is for a particular business, so it will carry that nomenclature. And second thing is this will be like a current account. It will not earn any interest. The debits and credits should be related to the business transactions. That is another condition of this account. It should be incidental and commensurate with the business operation of the account holder. Some more features. Tenure of the account will be related to the activity, the business activity which the person is doing. It should be concurrent to the tenure of contract or period of operation of the business of the account holder. And maximum period in this can be 7 years. In any case, it cannot exceed 7 years. No operations will be permissible in the account after 7 years from date of opening the account. That is the condition of SNRR account. Some more conditions. The balances are repatriable fully, but transfer to SNRR account from any NRO account is not permissible. From SNRR account, the balances are fully repatriable. Transactions in the SNRR account are subject to payment of applicable taxes in the India. When they put through some debits in the account, it will be subject to whatever tax is applicable in India. One more condition is that opening of SNR accounts by Pakistan and Bangladesh nationals or some business entities which are incorporated in Pakistan and Bangladesh, it requires prior approval of Reserve Bank of India. This is like even in the case of other non-resident accounts. Accounts to be opened by Pakistan and Bangladesh entities, we do require permission from Reserve Bank of India. AD banks are not permitted to open directly. Apart from these facilities of non-resident accounts in the banks, NRIs are given other investment facilities by as per FEMA guidelines and as per Reserve Bank of India. Where else can they invest the money? Let us see some examples. They can invest in shares and securities of Indian companies. On repatriation, certain deposit, investments are on repatriation basis. Certain are non-repatriable. That means the money which is invested has to remain in India. It cannot be repatriated abroad. Direct investment in shares or some shares or debentures offered by companies, or it can also be done in a portfolio investment scheme where they give the authority to certain banks or certain other companies to manage their portfolio. Then they can also invest in dated government securities, mutual funds, company deposits. Investment can be done in partnership firm or proprietorship concern. They can also, NRIs can also invest in immovable property in India. The repatriation of sale proceeds of immovable property is also allowed. But all the above investment and facilities are subject to FEMA guidelines from time to time, as the whatever are the FEMA guidelines, and when they change, it is notified through RBI. That has to be followed by authorized dealer banks also while allowing the debits for these investments to their accounts. Something about the loans against the non-resident deposits which can be granted by the AD banks. Loans can be granted in India to the account holder or third party, subject to usual norms and margin requirements. The banks have to form their own individual, as per their credit policy, they will form their margin rules about there is no ceiling about the amount of loan which can be given. Earlier, there used to be a ceiling which has been withdrawn now. So any amount of loan can be given subject to the usual norms and margin requirements, also subject to prevailing RBI and FEMA guidelines. But only thing that has to be ensured by the AD banks is that purpose should not be re-lending or carrying on agricultural or plantation activities or investment in real estate. These are prohibited purposes for loans. For purposes other than these, loans can be given subject to the FEMA guidelines and RBI guidelines. AD banks also grant retail loans to non-resident account holders. They can grant housing loan and other retail loans subject to their own credit policy and, of course, RBI and FEMA guidelines. So these were some updates about the non-resident accounts and other things. We shall continue this further, the updates about the other topics also. Thank you.